Hello. That was very informative and uh, just so much information. I think we'll all have a headache by the time we finish with the day and copious notes. But I've put in the chat several times that this will be available on the DTC webpage for future viewing. So if you have to miss a presentation or if you want to revisit some of this, please feel free to look at that on our webpage. And I want to make sure that our Adobe representative, Eric Rowse, is on. Hold on, I'm going through.
Sherry, I see they just jumped in, so I believe they will be ready in a minute if you want to introduce
Okay,
them.
that's great. Okay, everybody. So following Microsoft and Lincoln, we have Adobe representative Eric Rowse with us today, talking about the current and future offerings of AI with Adobe tools. Eric Rowse is a senior solutions consultant at Adobe, and before joining Adobe in 2012, his history included Creative Suite instructor. I'd like to spend a week just learning from you, sir. As an adjunct professor, an art director, animator, and pre-wed CD-ROM era designer. He's a firm believer that passion and vision, when paired with the correct tools, can produce outstanding digital stories the world can enjoy. Eric's an avid long-distance motorcycle rider and has traveled coast to coast twice, logging 2,600-mile riding through Europe. Eric's going to introduce some new functionalities in the Adobe Creative Cloud desktop and Adobe web tools. Jason Zarnes, I'm hoping you are here and listening and can make all of this become real for us U of L folks. Eric's going to talk about improving the workflow and simplifying complex and repetitive tasks in Photoshop. I need that one. How can you easily create a professional sounding podcast at the click of a button? And how Adobe's navigating the turbulent seas of generative AI. Wow, I love that term, turbulent seas. I agree. So, Eric, the floor is yours. Oh, I can't hear you.
How about now? Can you hear me?
Gotcha.
Wonderful. Great. The old double mute trick gets me every time. Well, good morning, all. Again, Eric Rowse. I wear an Adobe name tag, but very much before joining Adobe, I've been living and working in these tools. I've been using these tools since 1994. And I just find that way the tools have evolved. That's what I'm trying to say. We have evolved from kind of like what I have on screen right now. We really kind of came out of the old world back when I was doing CD-ROM stuff on a big old cathode ray tube monitor. Felt like, cave painting era, but look where we are today. I'm able to just pull a string, an idea out of my head and type it into something, and there's my idea. So I'm gonna kind of cover a few different things, but I really kind of want to emphasize the graphic that's on screen right now. Cave painting is a computer screen. Where does AI fit in this journey from paint to pixels? This is actually an image from Algeria, but is it the real, honest to goodness image? What I mean is kind of referencing more of a historical context. You scroll to my next slide here. Now, new technology is always viewed through the lens of old technology. So, printing press, everybody that was kind of the wise sage on the hilltop. It's like, wait a minute, wait, who's going to come talk to me? It's in a book. So there's some fear of the printing press. There's also fear of photography. Painters in the early 1800s are like, well, who's going to come and look at paintings or even buy my paintings because they can just take a picture? Well, naturally, people still love to see paintings and other art. The global museums are full of it. Television, of course, took over from radio. Uh, Radio, the spoken word, you were staring at a box, but the story was in your head. You saw your own take on what was being read aloud. And now, media, television, motion pictures, you're now interpreting somebody else's, you're viewing somebody else's interpretation. My wife's a high school librarian. We have this discussion all the time. What book adaptation was better in the movie? Or should they even not have bothered to make the movie? Harry Potter's a big table talk. Her high school kids like it. But streaming media as well, too. How do we know the streaming media thing that we picked was something that I chose to look at or was fed to me by AI? Hence social media as well, too. The Netflix algorithm was a big expression maybe 10 years ago. Social media is no different. So where I'm going with all this is initially I could see the world because maybe I'd be in the world. But let's go back to this cave painting. Can anybody spot the enhancement? Because I put an enhancement on this cave painting. Kind of let you chew on that for a couple minutes. I'll leave it on screen for a little bit. But this is one of the really great things about, I find, generative AI. I can add something to an image, but not uh, pollute, I guess, would be the right way to express it. And certainly AI is very turbulent. And when I've been speaking with other faculty members, the first thing that I've advocated to faculty members is, do you know how much AI you want to have in your classroom? Whether it's GPT powered, whether it is image powered. But maybe there needs to be some kind of consensus. Even come to the consensus of, well, we know it's going to be used, so let's not make it a furtive subject. Let's at least set some ground rules. How much AI can be used in my class? Well, to kind of cut to the chase, this bowl in the bottom right-hand corner, I put that in with generative AI. Now, leading to another item that I'm going to bring up, how do we know? How do we prove? And we certainly run into this a lot of times in our turbulent, stormy seas of AI. How do we know what's real? Has it been altered, edited, and changed? The visual image has been altered and edited and changed for years. There were people in the chemical wet film labs doing burning and dodging and all sorts of alterations to what that lens captured. But now we've really kind of hit this point of, how do we let people know it has changed? Well, AI has been bouncing around inside the world of Adobe for at least 10 years. And we've seen these tools in Photoshop and in Lightroom. The old auto button. It is so common in this day and age. People have their phone up, right? And they look at an image and it says uh, color or update or adjust, and there's an auto button. And we don't even think about it. We just click the button. That's AI, amongst other elements in the back end working on my behalf, like smarter selection tools. So, as I mentioned earlier about that cave painting, what allowed me to drop that bowl in the bottom right-hand corner? Firefly AI. That is live right now. Y'all could go to firefly.adobe.com right here, and it is out of beta mode. It is in GA, global allowance, whatever that means, the term back at Adobe. But you can now go here and create assets and art and won't have that little freezy thing in the bottom left-hand corner that says made under Adobe AI beta purview. So now I can actually create content and throw it into my assets, my outcomes, whatever it is that I want to convey. Let me scroll back, beg your pardon. There we go. Just had to change the order. Okay. And what I like about AI is, yes, it could be perceived as, well, okay, sky's falling. Humans are now going to sit back. I call it the George Jetson effect, right? We just sit and we push a button maybe for half an hour, and that's my day because everything else is going on automated behind me in the background. As I said, former animation student, so did a lot of study at Hanna-Barbera and Warner Brothers, wonderful art. But the tag on the screen is very personal to me because I've encountered this many times. When I hit File New, I get this great big white square And I'm like, how? How the heck am I going to fill this great big white square? And me, as a more visually narrative focused person, I studied architecture, film, fine arts, and animation. So I've been through jury process on 4 different career paths. It's been a unique experience, but I've got my mind's eye always cranking away. But not everybody has that. Some people got their eyes closed, so to speak. But that's all right, because what this tool can do is it can allow me to give a piece of text to say, here's what I want you to make today for me. And then I don't have to worry about where I'm going to get the art. I don't understand perspective. I don't understand motion blur. How do I stack my images in the way that I want my story, my narrative to be conveyed? So AI, as good as it is and as huge as a fan of it I am, needs a framework. It needs a framework of accountability, responsibility, and transparency. Again, going back to my initial statement, how do you know that cave painting's real? Are you standing in front of it? How do you know that element you saw on social media was real? Were you there at that event or activity? The end result of this was the Content Authenticity Initiative. This was started in 2019. Adobe is one of the Plank members. I'm just going to click on this link. So content-authenticity.org. Please go there and check it out. I also have some very quick 1-minute videos I'm going to play as well, and hopefully the sound should be coming through. But the idea is this: these major producers of content, whether it's physical equipment or media apparatuses, BBC, Canon, Radio Canada, and so on, there are many, want to make sure that there's some kind of provenance. Something that says, if you did create this piece of art, please let me know how much it was you, the human, or how much of it was AI derived. And while you're at it, let me know what edits, alters, and changes you had made. So the nice thing about this is it is open source. Now, these tools have already been integrated into Adobe Photoshop right now. I'll be showing you that as well. So as you create your content, you can hit that little button that says enable content awareness. And then that data is inscribed, it's right on screen right here. That data is burnt into the metadata of that asset. So it's not like it'll be a watermark. It'll just be there in the background of the fabric of that file. So if anybody ever asks, well, when did this get made, or what assets were used to create this content, we have a content authenticity stamp that will tell me that. In fact, let me just briefly detour into Photoshop just so you can connect this dot. Here I am in Photoshop. This is a photo I took when I was out in the Arizona desert, one of my motorcycle trips, cross-country trips, and I enabled my content credentials. I'm over here in the right-hand center side of the screen. I can turn on me as the producer. Do I want to connect any social media accounts? That's optional. And I want to record the edits and the activities so people know and understand that I have opened this file, and this file may contain other layers that are not being seen at this point in time, and was authored inside Adobe. There are other, I can show you how we can start with an image to turn it on, but I just want you to see the actual tangible of what these things look like. So the Content Awareness Initiative, I found this to be it's a solid high road approach to it's not enough to scrape the web and create cool visual images, because another aspect about Adobe Firefly, it was trained on Adobe stock, our 400 or 350 million plus collection of images and assets, and is absolute respect for copyright and trademark. So I can't come into Firefly and type out Spider-Man and get the Marvel comic red and blue Spidey. If I type out Spider-Man, I'm probably going to get some dude with like freaky legs sticking out of his back again, because Firefly respects copyright and trademark. So it's very much a use without fear, because you know you're not going to trod on anybody's toes for copyright infringement. And some of the other AI visual engines don't have that mindset. I'm very happy that Adobe does. I very much respect that, and I'm kind of proud that they've taken that particular stance. So let me get back into the presentation. Here we are. So content awareness initiative. So let me play like one or two quick videos on kind of reinforcing what I just said. So let me just pop on this YouTube video. And of course, I'm very happy to copy and paste this presentation into the chat. So in case if it doesn't come across the audio, you're very welcome to read and review material that I presented today. So I'm going to roll footage here.
Eric, the sound isn't coming through in the video.
I'm sorry?
The sound isn't coming through in the video.
Oh, that's unfortunate. Well, it was just kind of a snappy rock beat. We didn't miss anything, but you'll be able to get the sound on your side if you want to review this presentation. My apologies. I thought I had enabled that aspect inside Teams.
It's okay, thank you.
Sure. This other element on how to bring more transparency to AI and AI generation, you actually see this particular creative professional doing this exact same thing that the video that we had just shown. She rolls through it and talks about it in a little bit more detail. So again, give that a review after I finish my presentation. But this is only going to improve this content awareness, authenticity movement, so to speak, because just going back to that cave painting, I think there's going to be more of a fervor for air quote what is real. You know, the great line by Lawrence Fishburne in The Matrix, what is reality? We haven't gotten to the goggles yet of our experience of interacting with the world, but we certainly have been immersed by artificial generated art. In fact, the image you're looking at on screen right now is artificially generated art. Again, going to what I was explaining before about fear of that empty artboard. Now, 30-second sidebar, you can look at this image and say, okay, well, somebody in the creative arts must have made that. But I'd counter that. I could probably pick 5 different majors that could have used this image in one of their presentations. Botany, hydrology, earth sciences, um, meteorology, creative writing, philosophy. Any one of those students could have gone to Firefly, our generative AI engine, and typed out a string of text that would put this image onto the screen. So a long way of saying this new tech just isn't for well, I'm a fine artist. No, it is for everyone because everyone has a story. Everyone has to be able to convey their intent. Everybody has a narrative that they want to put forth to support their conclusions that support their class or their degree program or what have you. This is very much an enhancement to the narrative you're trying to tell, but it's just not stovepiped in a very narrow world of what would be considered air quote fine arts or graphic design. So a lot of preamble.
Eric,
Yes, please.
we do have a question in the chat pad around content authenticity. And what if you download an already edited photo from the internet and then put that content authenticity stamp on it from just the edits that you yourself had done?
Right.
That is the
What
question,
would,
yeah.
thank you, Aubrey. What would need to have been present if the source art has no stamp, then the stamp that you put on it after download would not know about the other steps that were taken to create that particular piece of art that resided on the web. But hopefully, if you're downloading an image from the web, it's a royalty-free. So we certainly don't want to have anybody sued in the next 5 generations for pulling a piece of art from some place that they didn't quite have permission. I understand where you're going with that question, though. So if the stamp isn't present, adding it after the fact will not allow the stamp to understand the steps taken to compose that image. But kind of in that line of thought, let's talk about Firefly. This is another generated piece of art that I put in a string of text into Firefly to say, please create a mountain meadow at dusk full of wildflowers and fireflies. So I didn't have to go stomping out into some kind of meadow, maybe near my home, maybe near the time of the year. I just told Firefly, please create this content. So we've spoken a little bit about some of this text that's on screen right now not being trained, but here's some good bullet points on what makes a good prompt. Because if you can't talk to the AI, you're going to be banging your head against the wall saying, well, why can't I get the image I want to have that I see in my head? And I actually have a PDF file that I will send afterwards. It goes in a little bit more detail, about 4 pages of the art and the science of a good prompt. But some of these bullets, good prompts are the backbones of good outputs, as I said, and it's more art than science, naturally. Visualize it. I know it sounds old school, but you have to be able to see what you want. And once you see it in your head, you're able to type it out on screen. So yes, I can design a prompt, but remember, I'm asking Firefly to create this particular art. So this particular prompt on screen was a beautiful log cap mountain in a snowtop mountain environment, or snow-capped peaks. This one, ultra-realistic image of an otter running at high speed with city buildings in the background and a sunny sky creating shallow depth of field and motion blur. Wow, that's a mouthful, but boy, didn't it nail what I saw in my head, that freeze frame of what I was trying to convey in my narrative. Okay, so let's try it. Let's actually fire up Firefly and start making some prompts. I'm going to copy this one. I'm going to go into Firefly. And Firefly does have a list of as yet to be developed materials. We have text to image, generative fill, text effects, and recolor, but still an exploration, sketching, 3D imagery, even going as far as creating storyboards based off a string of text that you could provide, and it'll kind of do the cutscenes. But we're going to do text to image. I'm going to sign in. Now, naturally, this only happens when people watch. Hey, look at that. It remembered my credentials. A good thing about prompts is just hover over a picture, and you can see the text that somebody had put in order to get Firefly to create the image that you're seeing on screen. So this is a great way to kind of get familiar with, well, what's available for me. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy paste that otter scene that I was just showing you and hit generate. I can choose how big the art's going to be: landscape, portrait, square, or widescreen. Go widescreen. And I'm going to have it generated again because it's actually fast today. Right on. Good bandwidth. But I can do other things to my image, like, do I want to give it more parameters? Do I want it to be black and white? Do I want it to be a cool tone, vibrant color? Do I want it to be some kind of different lighting, composition? All of that I can put in as parameters that will help frame my image. Now, if I didn't want an otter, maybe it's a bobcat. Let it do its thing. And then I can start to eliminate or add other bits of this text to change the image to what I want it to be. I put in a cardinal, but cardinals don't run. So I could say cardinal flying at high speed. Same thing would occur. But let's make it even more simple than that. Let's say a robot cow riding dusty plains. So a prompt like that might be great for creative writing, but maybe I could use it as a theme for some other type of narrative or story that I'm trying to convey, like weather change or veterinary sciences or soil hydrology or on and on and on and on. So it's a lot of fun to play around with. Firefly.adobe.com. If you haven't jumped in there already, fire away. Y'all have access to it. Just put in your Louisville credential, and you can start using where I am right now, firefly.adobe.com. It's a great little rabbit hole you can kind of duck down every now and then if you want to have a little visual mental break to say, oh, I want to create something today. Now, I could also tell it, oh, I like what you did here. Edit, give me similar. Because the challenge can be, well, how can I get variations of what I told it to do? Well, you go to the edit icon and you click that pull down, you say, give me similar. So now you can have different mechanisms for telling the story, and you can kind of keep deriving different images. Yes, good. I love. Keep playing. Thank you, guys, if I pronounced that correctly. But it's such a fun tool. But these fun tools have also made their way into other tools. So let me jump into my presentation again. You scroll to the top here. Well, we're going to get to AI in a little bit, podcast in a little bit, but I just want to say as well, I can use this technology inside Firefly itself. Beg your pardon, Express itself. So Adobe Express is another mechanism of being able to come to one place, a digital makerspace, and say, I want to create X. Well, create something for social media, for video, for photo, for documentations, and for marketing. But notice this little icon right here, Generative AI. So what I just did, Robot Cowboy riding the plains, I could do right here, right inside Adobe Express as well, too. So I don't want you to feel like, oh, I got to pop out to some other place, download the art, drop it into a new application. As Firefly just hit global release yesterday, we're starting to see its integration to multiple applications. We're going to be seeing it in Photoshop and Illustrator, oh, maybe by another 4 weeks. It's currently inside Express, and quite possibly we could see some AI technology land in Acrobat of all places. You're like, well, what does AI got to do with Acrobat? Well, why don't you type a question inside a PDF file and get the AI to scrub that PDF and provide you a synopsis of what you wanted to read? Could be a 200-page document. So again, all of this is pending. The bit about the Acrobat stuff at least, but Photoshop, Illustrator, and Express all have generative AI, if not immediately baked, next 2 to 3, maybe 4 weeks coming up as well too. Okay. So we're talking about how can AI help me as a visual person? Okay, well, how can AI help me if I'm doing more audio type stuff? That's Adobe Podcast. That's a fantastic utility. Now, because it's browser based, podcast.adobe.com, eventually that feature is going to land in Express. Because again, we're using Express as that one-stop shop. I go to here instead of needing to crack open an audio application, cut my audio, and then maybe process it in other places. I just come to Express and say, what do you want to make today? I'm expecting a new category next to marketing that's called podcast. It's not there yet. That's my gut reaction. But if this is on a browser and this is on a browser, I think they're going to get merged together. Okay, so what can podcasts do for me? The very short version is I can speak into the mic. My audio is listened to by AI. My audio is turned into viable, selectable text, just like you read on an email. And then I can edit my audio, but not by looking at waveforms. I can edit my audio by highlighting the text of that transcription. And on the back end, the audio now has changed. So go to Studio. Now, unfortunately, I just don't know why audio is not coming through on my Microsoft Teams share. So this might be a little more of a trust me, please play with it. It is awesome. But I just want to at least show you an example of what it'll do. This is a pre-built, pre-baked element. The audio recording that was uploaded, so I don't want you to feel like you must live record with a microphone that I'm moving around in front of my camera. I can upload any audio file. So I could be recording audio on my phone. In fact, I recorded an AI discussion by Sid Dorvan of the University of Florida. It was a 40-minute lecture he gave on use of AI from a creative writing standpoint. I just took that WAV file, pitched it into podcast, and I got a viable transcript. A transcript that I could then edit and then edit the audio content on the back end. Why? Great way of getting snippets for news bites or quick hits if I want to throw that on social media or something that'll help reinforce my course outcome. I could say, oh yeah, here's a lecture from so and so from 2018. Why did I say 2018? If I downloaded that lecture as an audio file, I can upload that lecture to podcast, look at it, edit it, and then download it with my alterations, edits, and changes that suit my needs. And of course, properly cited and sourced. So I'm able to, beg your pardon, podcast is able to understand different voices. So this particular audio file, there were two distinct humans speaking, and that's why each human got its own uh, string of text that I could highlight, alter and edit and change. Now, I cannot change the word this into thesaurus. Because remember, this is just a transcript. It is not allowing me to get in and change the audio file from the standpoint of a new recording. All I can do is edit the text because at times when the content is brought in, it might mistake some words. So all I have to do is say, well, audio professional. In the audio file, it says audio professional expert. I can hit the edit and just say professional expert. So now I've altered the transcript, but if I want to delete content, all I do is I highlight this and I delete. By hitting delete, I've legitimately cut a hunk of that audio out of the waveform. What did I not do? I didn't have to open up an audio engineering application, find that waveform, which can be real pesky, and then make a selection and then hit delete. And then hopefully those two clips snap together. I don't need to do some kind of transition. This shape right here is representative of a color and then a big representative color of a piece of audio that I could bring in because I have public domain music. So if I wanted to use free, nobody's going to sue you audio for intros or exits or bumpers, I can do that. I can add fade in and fade out to those audio bumpers inside this application. Again, not going to an audio engineering application. Or if I've got my permission, I can upload audio and hopefully it would not be professional artists. And that could be the real temptation. Oh, I love this song. It's on my phone or it's on my hard drive. Let me use it in this project. Okay, yeah. Danger, Will Robinson. Beware. Because if it stays on campus, the flesh-eating lawyers might not come after you, but who knows how it's going to leave the campus. So play it safe, go for royalty-free if you want to use audio that you did not record and edit into your presentations. I'm going to go back to one other thing in this application podcast. It also allows me to enhance speech because very frequently when I'm doing a podcast, maybe I'm not in the sound canceling room with that funny looking trapezoidal pointy foam blocks with a pro level microphone and the big can headsets. Maybe I'm on the street and I'm talking into my phone through an open air earbud or maybe one with the wired microphone. I can come into an enhanced speech and allow by giving a choice of strength. That's what we're really getting at. Let me get to this right particular file. Audio, there it is. So I can upload that audio, and then once it lands inside the application, I can move a slider back and forth to say, well, I want to cut out the ambient noise of speaking in a large, tall ceilinged, glass-filled room. A lot of reflection, a lot of echo. Now, as you can see here, it's taken a bit of time to process. And again, unfortunately, for whatever reason, my audio isn't coming through today. I do apologize for that. This is something, again, you have access to right now. Put in your Louisville credentials, go to podcast.adobe.com, and try speaking into the mic and recording content. So while that's doing its thing, naturally it only takes a long time when you're watching it. Just so you understand, well, what does a file new environment look like? Because like I said, Eric, you're making a big point. File new is intimidating. Well, I'm just going to go back. I'm going to go into the studio. I'm going to say new project. If you have a brandy new project you want to do, you're in the studio, you click project. Okay, here's my blank canvas, right? Well, whatever microphone I happen to have. I just make sure that's in front of me. And look at this icon right here. I'm able to mute it or not mute it, or I can come in and I can define which particular microphone I have access to, as well as some filters. I can turn on enhanced speech if I know the room I'm sitting in is highly reactive. Like I know some musicians like to record in old houses, in old bathrooms. Well, tile, they love the sound of tile, how it makes the music sound. So if I know my office is noisy or creaky or tall ceilings, I can click on enhanced speech and still record my footage. I know you won't be able to hear it, but it's just as simple as clicking the red button. Good morning. I'm here at Taste of Technology, speaking to a large crowd of Louisville professors and interested folks in learning how Adobe AI tools can help shorten daily tasks. Stop recording. So step 2 is my audio gets kicked up to the cloud. It's going to try to, and will, transcribe my audio into text dialogue like we just saw. And then when it finishes, I'm kind of heavy-handed silence here. Come on, cloud. When it finishes, I'll get a string of text. So now I can correct this. Why am I correcting it? Because I want to see the text on screen as if it's going to end up being a transcribed piece of audio when I hit download. Because look what it says here. Download audio plus transcript. So I want this to look right. Otherwise, this piece of text isn't going to help anybody. So a Taste of Technology, speaking to Lark Hollywood professor, interested folk in learning how Adobe, not Air, but Edit AI tools can help shorten daily tasks. Well, Shazam, it's done. I would then hit download and generate an audio file, and I can move on with my day. Hopefully this application, just by kind of we scratched at it a little bit, but just as much of a quick look should be able to allow you to create some very easy and manageable audio experiences without having to go into an application like Adobe Audition. It's great, Adobe Audition, but it's a little overpowered for just spoken word, uh, edit text, and generate content. But podcastadobe.com, quite possibly, it's going to land in Express with a new category, my gut feeling, but have fun. You have access to it right now. Create some audio, play around with it. Okay, that was podcast. Moving forward, building on spoken word. Another aspect is character animator. So what I can do is I can speak into the mic and animate an actual character in Express to emulate as if I was a cartoonist and I did the audio recording and the mouth match. So I come in the video and there it is, animate from audio. I get a whole string of characters, pre-built, pre-made. You don't have to make them. You don't have to do the IK, inverse kinematics, and the skeletal structure. The lip will move consonant and vowel shapes according to what you've said. So again, another quick demo. Here I am standing in front of a very colorful stream in background, just speaking into the microphone. This audio is getting kicked up to the cloud, very similar to what the engine of podcast did. It's not going to give me text. It's going to take the next step. It's going to know what the TH sound makes the lips look like, or the, or the sh, or the ah, or the ooh, and you're going to see the mouth match occur on the character. Now, unfortunately, again, the audio is not working, but I'm just going to roll it without the footage. You'll be able to at least see, what did I not have to do? I didn't have to try to farm this particular element out. I didn't have to try to find an animator or a graphic designer that has experience in mouth matching. It's very complex. Edit it, and then just hit play. Yes, my apologies. It loses the impact, but something you can play with and express yourself right now. You'll have access to it, express.adobe.com. This can be downloaded, and now you have a animated master of ceremonies that you can put in your learning management system. Or if you want to kind of have this be your spokesperson for the semester or what have you. Students love this, being able to throw this kind of stuff. Something like this might stick other than PowerPoint bullets. Yeah, we all react to motion, and certainly audio and video now combined beats reading it. There's a lot of fun that you can have with very simple animate from audio in Express. It's under the video category. It's a great question, Frederick. Changing the dialect. Podcast does not know how to do that kind of thing. That would be Adobe Audition, where I could change octaves, make it go higher, make it go lower. But the artificial accents, where different uh, Spanish, German, Italian, French, Brazilian, it won't know how to do that. So this is more because remember what Express is. It's a creativity engine that covers the widest span of an audience. So it doesn't really get under the hood, but certainly Audition doesn't make that kind of artificial accent. Yes, I have an American accent, but I could try to switch on another country's accent. Audition doesn't do that either. So, but it's a great question. We're in the early stages of this. So it could very well be we will see more clever things added to this particular element. And another question that I've been asked by another school, can I upload my own character to this stack? Unfortunately, not at this time. I'm hoping that I'll be able to see upload as part of this triple bullet. I'd actually have to go into the full-blown application character animator to the bottom of my screen. Character animator was built to do what the light version of what we've just seen on screen. In fact, this light version of what we just seen on screen was lifted from Character Animator and turned into a browser-based application. So Character Animator, a lot of fun, a lot of AI cranking away in the background, allowing me to do this. But you know what? Let's get into the Photoshop. I know we're kind of running short on time, and hopefully I've been answering the questions as they've been coming up. But let me see how far I can take this. There we go. Wow, it's just that kind of day. My background dropped out. Well, you know what? We're not looking at the background. We're looking at neural filters. Well, what the heck is a neural filter? AI-powered capability in Photoshop that will allow me to take this mountain picture and say, well, no, I wanted mountain in winter. I did not go to the mountains in winter 7 months after taking that one picture. I just told Photoshop, make this be winter. Same with this image. I have a character who's taking a selfie. You know what the number one selfie bug is? Nobody's looking at the pinhole camera. They're looking at the massive screen to see if there's background is good. So I can correct this typical human reaction. We do it all the time and recenter the eyes. Just imagine trying to get a group of people together to correct that one perfect image. And you can't do that, can't go back in time, can't be at that place, but at least I could try to alter, edit, change with some AI. make it so much easier to say, well, now this gentleman is looking at the camera. So let's jump into Photoshop. Let's check that out. Here I am in Photoshop. Mountains. I had just shown you this example. There is that particular picture of the mountains. How did I turn on neural filters? I went to Filter, Neural Filter. Okay, that's easy. I get a list of them. Landscape Mixer. I'm going to turn that on. And now you can see the presets over on the right-hand side. Well, you know what? I'm looking for winter, and I can turn on how much winter is going to be provided to me after I hit OK. So let me hit OK on 100% winter. Oh, yes. One more time. Filter, Neural, Landscape Mixer. I turn you on. I turn you on to winter, and I hit. I'm going to say output will be new layer. And that should be. Oh, all right. Here's a kick me moment. Strength, fantastic. You turned it on. But there we go. Use the winter slider. Apologies. So maybe it didn't snow that much that day. Or maybe we're in transition. Or maybe we're in full blown, it's winter, it's darn cold here. But okay. I now have two images. Let's take a look at the gentleman looking at the camera. Well, the original was he was looking at the camera, but I was giving a presentation on taking the perfect headshot. And I needed an example of don't be the knucklehead that looks off center. Please look at the camera. So I had to take something. You can't find a picture in Adobe stock that says person taking a selfie with eyes off center. That doesn't exist because who's going to find that? They want people taking a selfie. They're looking right at the camera. So I had to use a neural filter to say, okay, this is the fella, but I want to shift their eyes. Went into filters, went into neural. I'm going to turn on smart portrait. Now you notice what it did right away? It drew a big blue box around. It's like, is this the head? Why, yes, it is. I can now come in and change eye direction. If I go negative, I go to the left. If I go positive, I go to the right. So let me kick this over to the left. Processing in the cloud. So it kicks it up to the cloud. And it also depends on how intense this particular image is for duration of how long this will take. But you've already seen the before and after. So really what I'm just showing you is how can you do this? And look at that. His eyes are now off center. Do you have any idea how challenging this was to do? My apologies. I'm going to say walking uphill in the winter, both uh, to and from school. As I said, I've been in these tools for a while. This just blows me away with the ease of which I'm able to make change. Change without making me bang my head against the wall, saying I have to kind of make a selection around the eye and then move the eyeballs over. And now I just take a neural filter and say, please do this for me. And there it is. So a question from Frederick. Advice or tools to recommend to somebody creating an automated YouTube top 10 expensive places to travel and upload a transcript, but have it read in a different voice. Well, different voice again might need to be more heavy duty audio engineering as opposed to something like podcast that might involve more audition work if you wanted to have that particular transcript. But what I was showing you on podcast before, I am not typing text and telling podcast, please generate an AI artificial voice. And we have these on our mobile devices, don't we? Siri, right? We can tell Siri to be male or female. We can tell Siri to be English or Irish or American. That is not present inside podcast. I think it'd be a really clever idea to be able to change that on the fly. You raise a good point, Frederick, but at this point in time, that's not present in podcast. That might end up needing to be some very clever head audio engineering inside Audition. Opening eyes. Well, that might need to be, the question was, I know in the mobile app, there's a way to open the eyes. This is open available. Well, mobile app, are you talking about Lightroom, Matt? Because I'm personally, I'm just not familiar with that particular one. But if I come back into my neural filters, I don't know if there is a eyes shut or eyes closed. It's a great takeaway. Let me check on that for you, and try to send that back out with that AI prompts document as follow-up. But when I go into Smart Portrait, I'm not necessarily seeing open eye, open close. It'll do expression, like a smile, frown and smile. But so some really neat stuff there. Getting back into the presentation, new and exciting. You know what? Let's get to the new exciting inside Photoshop. Now, we did text to image, but let me show you some of the aspects of, remember what I was telling you before about opening this conversation? Was I in front of that cave painting and was that bull there? How do we know? Here's an image right now. This is Nubble Lighthouse in York, Maine. That's southern coastal Maine. Love this lighthouse. It's the town my folks lived in for a while. Took this particular picture. But you know what? That's not the lighthouse. That is the lighthouse. Kind of that faded with the black turret top. That's the original. What I've now clicked on screen, that was generative AI. How did I do that? How did I make that happen? Here's another one. I was just on vacation with my wife in Norway about a month ago. Norway's got lots of fjords, and fjords got lots of waterfalls. We were on a boat tour, and it's like, oh, great picture of the waterfall, but that's not reality. This was my reality. Everybody getting getting in my way. Like, of course, everybody thinks that their picture should be the primary focus of a boat out of 100 people. No, that's not going to happen. Everybody's going to kind of get in your lens. And I knew as I was taking this picture, I'm like, just frame it. All I have to do is get it back home and let AI have a look at it, Firefly have a look at it and say, yeah, I bet I could fix that. How do we make these things? Well, let's start with the lighthouse. Just going to zoom in. The first step in saying, I have something that I want to adapt and change. We got two rules. The first rule is make a good selection around the thing that you want to replace. How do I do that? Well, I got all sorts of selection tools. I got rectangular, elliptical, the lasso, plenty of ways of making a selection. I just kind of kept it old school. I made a box. The second step is this is a persistent tab that's going to pop up in Photoshop. When I click on Generative Fill, make sure I have the right layer selected. I have two choices. Either I can tell it I want to provide no text instruction. When you provide no text instruction, that tells generative AI to paint the thing out of the picture, like irrevocably out. Part two of that is give it some instruction. White Lighthouse. So now AI knows I'm going to do something technically it's called in painting. I'm going to paint in this picture. By making a marquee selection around this thing, it's also going to use the colors present in the file. So I'm not going to get some weird tangerine stripe lighthouse. There's no tangerine stripe present in this image. When I tell it, make a marquee selection, white lighthouse, it will now generate an image that pulls and honestly is harmonious with what is already in this image. Takes a little bit to do it, but it is almost done. And then I get three variations. I can pick and choose. So variation number one, variation number two, variation number three. Honestly, I think one's the best. But I can further define. So remember how we were messing around inside Firefly? We're doing the running otter at light speed, or we did the cowboy. I can always keep adapting the text because what are we seeing here? This is no different from Firefly text to image. It's native inside Photoshop. So maybe I could say white and green lighthouse. Well, it might have give me this color green because that's the only green on this particular image. But my point is this. I have now changed reality. And if you didn't know this particular physical space, you're like, wow, cool. Okay, lighthouse. Got it. Nice pick. Very New England. So, how do we get what I was talking about in the cave painting, that authenticity? We looked a little bit at it earlier. How do I get some kind of stamp on this particular file that says, Eric took the picture, but augmented it with artificial intelligence? I go into Window. I choose Content Credentials. Now, yes, it says beta because it's still being baked. Adobe Creative Conference, which is called MAX, M-A-X, is at the end of October. Actually, middle of October, beg your pardon. That's probably when it's going to shift out of beta. That's when we have our release to the world of cool and new tech for the public to see. I've already got this panel open, but that's what I would click. I come over here to Content Credentials. And it's saying, do you wish to enable content credentials on this picture? Sure. Now it's going to include edits and activities, as well as different elements. So when I hit preview, there we go. It's now telling me I use some Firefly, I use some Adobe, I took the picture, and it may contain other layers. So when I save this file, if you look close right where my mouse is moving, see that little bug icon with the eye? That's how I know that file's been altered. So I know we're at time. Thank you very much for listening to me talk about power of AI, authenticity, and quite possibly reaching back into some of those other elements. It's not about the cool tech that you can make. It's about being responsible, accountable, and transparent with the cool tech that you used to create your content. But you have this presentation in the chat, and thank you very much for your time today.
Eric, gosh, there's so much information. Thank you so much. I learned quite a bit, so just to help me with my personal photos, much less inside my work life. So we appreciate you being here. If anybody has any last minute questions, I'll make sure that we get those to Eric and try to get them back to you. And we'll have about 2 minutes before our next presentation. So again, Adobe, Eric, thank you so much.
Happy to help. And if anybody's hanging around in the chat, quick story. I got 2 minutes. My next door neighbor gave me this picture. It was a part of a remembrance book for her brother who had passed, and she'd said, "Can you get the blue guy in the shirt out of the way? Because I want to have my brother and his best friend together in a picture. They've never been together in a picture." So I made a selection, and I moved the two figures together. That took 15 minutes. And if you look close, generative AI filled in all that grass and all that detail just by looking at the original picture. So power for good. This is a wonderful personal use of this particular technology, but there's quite a bit you can do with generative AI inside Photoshop.